Hello and thank you for joining me for another ITY and Alex on Tech video. Today I have with me Dr. Yacov Geva. He is the CEO of Medical Innovations. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Alex.
Actually, it's G Medical Innovations, but go on, sorry.
DG Medical Innovation. Yeah.
Okay, now we're here to talk about your innovative smartphone medical case and services, but we'll get onto that in a moment. Before we get there, can you please tell us how G Medical came to be and a little bit of your history in this field?
So I started my engineering career in the mid-70s, where I developed the first printhead, dot matrix printhead for a teleprinter, an electronic teleprinter which was geared to the military industry, for the Navy and others. It was a very great success from a technology point of view. It was not very big success from a commercial point of view, but that was not my responsibility at that time. I moved then to a project which I developed for the U.S. Navy, a very unique dot matrix printhead for their ships and submarines. And this was a very successful project, financially and from a technology point of view. And then started a new career, 10 years of being the chief engineer of a company called Vishay Intertechnology, which is a New York Stock Exchange company with a subsidiary in Israel. The company was an American company. And when I joined the company in 1979, the company was at $50 million of revenues, doing basically special electronic components for the space industry, for the military industry. And I left the company 10 years later. The company was around $2 billion of revenues. Nothing to do with me. I'm just mentioning it as a fact. And in 1990, I started a company called CarGuard, which was 100% my company. And this is when I started basically the medical part of my life. And the company developed a unique remote product for heart patients, monitoring of heart patients. Then we moved into pulmonary asthmatics monitoring of patients. We moved into fetal monitoring. And whatever I'm mentioning, it's always remotely from home or any part of the world. Distance was not an issue, and borders were not an issue. And so the patient could move anywhere, anytime.
So
in 1999, I took the company public in Switzerland. It was a great success, the IPO at that time. And a month later, I acquired a company called LifeWatch in Chicago, which then we changed the name of the parent company to LifeWatch, and this is the company that was created. I took basically the company from zero sales to $130 million of sales, US dollars. And left the company in January of 2014. Took a couple of months vacation. Which I said after 25 years of the engines that was never shut down, I shut down the engines for a couple of months and then started G Medical in November of 2014. With a very clear message. We're going to develop unique products that the market will need, and in three verticals. One vertical is the technology vertical, which we were very strong. The other one is the monitoring services, which we were very strong. And the third vertical, which is most important, is the big data. The big data allows us to analyze the situation of millions of users that will use our devices and dissect it into different industries, like the government that wants to know what is going with the public, the insurance companies that are paying for it wants to know what is going with their people that they are insuring. Pharmaceutical companies, that the most important thing for them when they develop drugs is the big data, analyzed and right, coming from FDA, CE, CFDA approval of products, and not a bunch of gadgets that are not cleared by the regulator, and you never know whether the measurements that are done are right or wrong. So this is where we are.
Yeah.
Well, so May 10, 2017, we went public in Australia. And the reason we went public in Australia, which was not planned to begin with, is the chairman and the board of the ASX were visiting Israel, and they came to visit us, and basically they convinced us to come and IPO in Australia.
Wow.
And so we thought that at this point in time, it's the right place, as we are a small company, to IPO. The market is liquid. You are one of the 10 largest markets in the world in terms of public market.
And adoption of technology and all those sorts of things.
Pardon?
And the adoption of new technologies.
And the adoption of new technologies, high tech, which traditionally Australia was basing on natural resources, which is great. What we don't have in Israel, but what we have in Israel is the high technology, the high-tech nation,
absolutely,
as we are called.
Yeah. Well, Australia likes to think it does a lot of things in technology too, and we do. We've had many firsts here, including hands in the invention of Wi-Fi and other things. But certainly Israel has been a true leader, and Australia and Israel should work more closely together on many things. So it's fascinating that you have chosen to launch here. I note with your background, I mean, you've been doing technology longer than I've been alive. in 1979, my father purchased me my first computer, an XD Sorcerer, which was a running BASIC, and you could have it run CPM. And that was 2 years, of course, before the IBM PC in 1981. And I very fondly remember my dot matrix printers. I had a 9-pin, and one of the programs would print 2 or 3 times, and it would be very shiny afterwards. Not as good as the old 24-pin printer. And I remember a company called Dick Smith even had a 1-pin printer at the time.
Alex, I can tell you that when I was a student in engineering school, we used the IBM 370, which is the size of almost half a soccer field.
Yeah.
And if you remember the first PC, the 269, the 269, which was very slow, was 1 million times quicker than the IBM 370.
Yeah.
1 million times.
Yeah. And now, of course, we must be millions of trillions times faster than those earlier computers of that particular era. But look, clearly, going from dot matrix printers to medical innovation, I mean, it's something that becomes more important to us, especially all as we get older, and we've seen it predicted so many times in science fiction, most notably with things like the tricorder in Star Trek. So let's talk about Prizma, your innovative smartphone case, and and the story behind the creation of the. I mean, you've already mentioned in terms of scanning for heart conditions and other things, but this device sort of brings a lot of what you've done together, and is clearly the first of what will be a long generation of connected medical devices from you.
Yeah, so what we've done here, looking, if we can say, predicting the future, we have said we want to get as far as we can away from hospitals, doctors. We want to be healthy. We want to do preventive medicine. We want to be free to travel anywhere, anytime, around the globe. But one thing that we always need, and I would say it's not really dependent on our age, but it's really dependent where we are traveling at what times. So we want to have, in a sense, a doctor in our pocket. And a doctor in our pocket means vital signs measurement. So if we are, traveling on a safari in Africa, or we are on a mountain in Nepal, or in South America, in Peru, somewhere, or even in Zurich in Switzerland, we want to have a device that if we don't feel well, we can do an immediate test instead of rushing into the emergency room in a hospital, which nobody knows you basically. Nobody knows your medical history if you have, but some junior doctor will take you into tests and he doesn't know anything about you. Sometimes you are not able even to communicate because he speaks German and you speak Spanish. And so this is where the importance of having a product that you can communicate anytime, anywhere, in your language with a medical call center to your country, and the physician that will talk to you on the phone will see immediately on the computer your medical history, your measurements that you have done because you have sent them. He will see also all the previous measurements that you have done, and he will listen to your story. These three components will draw a very clear picture to the physician that will tell you, Alex, you are fine, nothing is wrong with you, you just had probably bad food, or you have a flu, or Alex, you should go and see immediately a doctor. And this is the big difference between what we have today and what people are seeking to have. If you are talking about, let's say, China, there is nothing between the patient and the hospital. There is no buffer, there is no GP, there is no clinics, there is no nothing. So a Chinese who doesn't feel well is spending 3 hours one way on the road to get to a hospital, spends another 10 hours queuing until a doctor will see him or her, and then another. I mean, you spend almost 24 hours to run around to see a doctor that will see you for minutes.
You better not
they don't have time to see you for more.
Yeah, you better not be
So
having a
this is
heart
where
attack
we
or
are
something.
changing the whole paradigm of how to manage patients.
And just quickly on the, I mean, I'll be linking obviously to your website, and we can see that there's a case that slips over your Android or iPhone device, communicates by Bluetooth, and has a range of sensors on the back. Can you just quickly tell us the different sensing functions that this first generation Prizma device is now proudly offering?
So what we are offering with our third generation
is excellent.
We are offering an ECG test. We are offering your body temperature test. We are offering your oxygen saturation test, offering your heart rate and your stress level, which is more of a mental stress than a physical stress. And the reason we have done it in this way is we just wanted to shorten the FDA clearance period, because we could easily add chemical tests like diabetes, testing blood sugar, or others which we have in plan for 2018. But then it would take much longer to get an FDA clearance.
Sure.
So this is the reason why we came up with 5 tests as opposed to maybe 8 tests at the same time.
Sure. Well,
we have the technology. We have the roadmap until 2020. We're adding more and more tests, mainly chemical tests like cholesterol and triglyceride and total cholesterol and uric acid and others. I can mention here about 15 other tests, but we don't have enough time for that.
Sure.
And I'm not planning to disclose it to my competition.
Absolutely.
If and when they come into the market.
Sure.
Mostly, I would say, Alex, the algorithms that we have developed and the software, embedded software that we have developed, and the whole philosophy of monitoring patients remotely, where you have from one side the technology that you keep in your pocket, and the other side you have the monitoring receiving center that is operated 24/7, gives you the total solution.
And so, how much more accurate are we talking about than people using their wearables and smartwatches these days? And obviously, you obviously have a bigger platform in which to deliver a lot of these other tests that can't more easily go into a smartphone platform. But, I mean, what are we talking about here when we can talk about wearables?
I will tell you one thing, and I think it is clear to everybody. All these wearables are maybe nice devices, but none of them are regulated. None of them have a vital sign platform. And so when you're talking about Garmin or Fitbit, I assume you are referring to those devices.
As well as Apple Watch.
Or even Apple Watch. They don't have any FDA clearance or CE clearance on the measurements. And so I would never use them as devices to take my medical measurements. I mean, me personally, but I think they are good devices. I mean, they are nice devices.
Yeah.
But from a medical point of view, when we are talking about real measurements, when we are talking about real big data, a pharmaceutical company will not rely on it. An insurance company will not rely on those results. And certainly not the government that wants to see what is the puzzle of patients, non-patients, almost patients, and all these things.
Sure. I mean, we're talking medical grade versus consumer grade. And obviously things will improve in the future, but then so will you. Your many generations to come. So what is it looking like for approval in Australia with the Therapeutics and Goods Administration?
So we have submitted to the TGA, and we could not submit before we got the CE approval.
Yeah.
So once we got the CE, we've immediately submitted TGA, and so we are expecting a couple of weeks to have the approval, and then we will start commercializing in Australia.
And what about things like thickness or battery life? I mean, is it just does it use the internal power of your smartphone?
So what we have done on purpose is that we have developed this Prizma totally independent from the phone. Because if we would use the battery of the phone, we would have to go through FDA clearance with every phone that we are using.
Sure.
We can use any smartphone with the same Prizma, just the jacket around. We are changing according to the size and the size and the model of the phone. But the Prizma is totally independent from the phone, and regardless whether it's an Android or it's an iOS operating system, the Prizma is working with both of them.
I mean, it connects via Bluetooth, so in theory, you don't have to have the case connected at all if you don't want to. You could just hold the case and the phone separately.
In a way, sure. In a way, we can. We don't need a case to hold it on the phone, but this is where the difference comes in place. When you have it on the phone, and the phone is part of your life, or probably the most important thing in your life, because if you will forget your phone at home when you leave to the office, probably you will do a U-turn and you will run back to pick up your phone.
Absolutely.
But if you forget the Prizma, probably you will think twice before you are doing a U-turn.
Sure.
So I don't want you to forget the Prizma. I want you to have the Prizma on your phone anytime, anywhere.
Well, it makes the most sense, especially as it's tracking what was previously untrackable without batteries of tests and machines at hospitals and all the rest.
And now, just to add to what I said, the Prizma is operated by its own battery. You will have probably to charge it if you are a heavy user once in 10 days. So it's not an issue at all.
Sure. And so, is the Prizma now on sale in the US or Israel and other places? And whether it is or isn't, what do you expect it will cost in Australia?
Well, we are starting to ship in December products, and we will accelerate early 2018 as we are doing the first, production run. You always do it as a slow ramp up to make sure that you are not having any hiccups. The Prizma will be sold in Australia at around $259.
Right. That's
$259.
Yeah.
And then there will be a service component of minimum of 2 years, where every consumer will sign up for 2 years of service.
And did you think about doing anything through crowdfunding platforms like Indiegogo or Kickstarter, or have you not needed to go down that path?
No, we have never done it.
Yeah.
I've invested my own money until we went public, and it was millions of dollars, my own money.
Yeah. Well, look, puts you in a much stronger position and gives you the confidence you need to, make it happen. And so then there's also obviously the question about security. We've heard of all these hack attacks and leaked data, and people's personal biometric and other information and health records on the device, on the Prizma, and in your data centers is also crucial. So, and you must have obviously been doing a lot in that regard. So, what can you share that you've done to secure everything?
So, first of all, there is what we call in the US HIPAA compliance, how you are protecting data. And we are using a technology that is used mainly when you're protecting. How do you protect money when you're doing transfer of money from point A to point B, and you don't want that a hacker will just put his hand on the money? So there is a lot of technology involved here. Having said that, the Pentagon is not secured from hackers. So we can only do what we can do, but assuming a hacker will hack your information, your medical information, the only thing that they will see is a lot of ones and zeros. So they will not know who is the person and what is the data there.
Yeah.
Seeing a lot of zeros and one doesn't make anything.
Yeah. Well, it's like Apple was saying that they use 30,000 dots on their infrared true depth camera to match your face, but they save that information into their processor. They don't share it back to Apple, and you couldn't reconstruct a face from that data even if you could get to it. So there's clearly ways of anonymizing and having the data so that it's not easy or possible for the bad guys to try and do anything with it. And I guess a lot of the things you're doing, you wouldn't explain them anyway because they're secret in terms of security. So I guess we just have to be assured that you're doing it because it's just an imperative of business. You got to keep people's data secure, otherwise you won't stay in business.
There is no question about it. And by the way, in the past, when I was running a company called LifeWatch, it was a public company traded in Switzerland, but we had 3 call centers in the United States. We monitored over 5 million patients, and the data was totally secured. We have never been faced with a situation where the data was hacked.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we are doing everything the technology allows us to protect the data.
Sure, absolutely, and that's what you need to do. So, are there any other?
Alex,
yes.
Alex, I don't hear you.
Hang on. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. So I was just going to ask if there are any other products you're working on that you wanted to briefly mention.
Yeah, we have developed a patch. The patch is a type of a product that instead of putting on you a big box, a halter, which calls a halter in the medical terms, and is very expensive, thousands of dollars. and is only recording 24 to 48 hours of your data, what I call stupid recording, because from the day you are connected to the holder to the day the physician receives the data, it's probably a week going by. And what happens if you have really a severe situation and it should be addressed to your physician immediately? This doesn't happen. And in any case, when you are recorded for 24, 48 hours, in 95% of the cases, nothing will be fine. So it means that it's only 5% of the efficiency there, as opposed to a product that will auto-detect, auto-send your information, regardless of what you feel and regardless whether you're sleeping or not. The device will run the data, the algorithms will define whether there is a problem or not, and if there is a problem, the data will be sent in seconds, within seconds, to a call center or to the nurse station in the hospital, depends where you are. So the product that we have developed is a patch that can be used pre-hospitalization, through your hospitalization process, and discharge. Post-discharge, to keep you from readmission to the hospital within a period of time. And in the States, it is known that if you're readmitted to the hospital within 30 days, the hospital is getting penalized. And so the patch is coming to solve this problem. Now, we have developed it in a way that it is like a product that the physician can choose to use the patch. He can choose to use, looks like an hearing aid, which measures your temperature and your oxygen saturation. You can choose to use a blood pressure device, which is on your arm, the whole box of electronics. And so the physician is choosing it, and the patient is totally disconnected from wires, can move anywhere. And the beauty of it is that if the patient goes to toilet, let's say, and he falls in the toilet, we know exactly and immediately that the patient fell in the toilet, and I can tell you on what sides of the body the patient is now lying in the toilet. So we have positioning and we have location on top of the measurements that we are doing with the product. So it's really a revolution in the sense of, instead of having a bedside monitor in the hospital that costs probably $20,000 and has wires that are connected to the patient, and you need technicians to take care of the boxes, maintain the boxes.
There's just something moving. There's just something moving there that's making quite a loud scratching noise. So just everyone can just not move. Sorry, keep going. And
so you have wires that has to be replaced, and you have technicians that have to maintain the boxes, and so you have a full staff around the box, and you have nurses that are shutting down the alarms on the boxes because they don't want to be disturbed. And so this cannot happen with our patch, because if the nurse wants to shut down the alarm, she will have to enter with her ID into the computer and says, my name is John and my ID is this and this. So if something happened to the patient, she's on the hook.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and is that coming to Australia too?
Pardon?
Is that coming to Australia as well?
Sorry?
I'm just saying, is the patch also coming to Australia? The patch?
Sure. No question about it. Once we have got the CE, we will immediately approach DJ and we'll get the clearance there. And we are in discussions already with a couple of hospitals here in Australia.
So, as we get towards the end of the interview, I mean, I always like to look into the future. How do you see Prizma and the patch in 10 years? Will it be injected into your body, or, it's, some sort of super wearable patch of some sort?
Yeah, probably all of us will become robots with different injected technologies
Yeah.
in our
Cyborgs.
bloodstream, in our liver, and probably anywhere, and with replaceable organs. But there is no question that in 10 years from now, people will walk around with products, devices that you cannot even imagine today. Just to give you an idea, when the first cellular phone came into the market was a Motorola big
Briefcase.
thing, and it was like, wow, this was, people could not imagine this can happen, and within no time, the Japanese came in with a phone which was a watch. And then they realized that the phone as a watch is so uncomfortable and so unpractical that they went back and developed this flip-flop phone, which they're using until now. And basically, Steve Jobs, he changed the world by coming 10 years ago with a phone that it was like a miracle. So 10 years from now, I wish I could tell you what will be 10 years from now. I will be probably the richest man on earth.
Well, you'll be certainly developing those
But,
technologies. Yeah.
but yeah, we will see smaller hospitals. We will see less doctors.
Better healthcare. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see a totally different healthcare system, even though the healthcare system is always behind in making decisions because it's a big elephant and you have to change the direction of this elephant.
Yeah.
But the cost of healthcare, providing healthcare to the public, is rising like crazy. In the US, it's 17% of GDP. Here, you're around 9-10% of GDP. And it is going to grow because the population is getting older and the need of healthcare is rising. And the solutions are not going to be building more hospitals and providing more beds.
Yeah.
The solution will be home care type of services.
Yeah.
And I'll give you one example which is going to change, how products are going to change. At least in the US, I'm very familiar with what they call visiting nurses. Just imagine that in 2015, the mileage that visiting nurses did in the US is above 140 million miles. Going out to patients' home to measure the blood pressure, to measure this, to measure that. I mean, there is no need for it. If you have to replace or change the blankets, it doesn't have to be a nurse. But if you have to go and measure the patient, do the measurement, don't go. We'll give you a patch. The patch will send you the data anywhere, anytime, and you can program it how many times you want to see the data. There will be cameras that will watch the patient. You don't have to do 140 million miles across the US.
Yeah.
So you can imagine that the cost will drop dramatically and the level of care will increase dramatically. So this is the type of things that we are looking when we are deciding to develop new products. What is really the needs of the market and not whether the box should be bigger or smaller, whether it should be more expensive or less expensive. The solution should be zero cost and only charge for service and not charge for boxes and moving boxes here and there.
Yeah.
This is going to be history.
Yeah. So after many decades of success across multiple industries...
Sorry, I
said
cannot...
after many decades of success across multiple industries, what would be the best piece of advice that you've received over the years to help you get to where you are today. Can you share with us?
Yeah, one of them was when I started the company developing medical products. I was still thinking as a stupid engineer that has to show how smart I am in developing technology, which I did in the past in the more mill standard components. And you know what I found out, which is the most important thing in the healthcare industry? There is one magic word: reimbursement. You can develop the most important product, the most beautiful product, most successful product. If it is not reimbursed, it's not in the basket of where the insurance companies are paying, you can drop the product to the garbage can because nobody pays for it. That's A. B, try to focus what the market needs. So first go out and assess the market and then come back and tell your engineers what to do. And not the other way around. We are used to, develop and show beautiful products, and then we are going out and we are looking where is the market. That's the wrong way to do it. So the advice I got was when I was very young, this is the way to do it.
Very good. And so what would your final message be for IT Wire viewers and readers, for the medical community, and for your current and future customers?
What is the message?
Final message, for people watching this. What's the last thing you want to say to them?
I think that for the people that are healthy, maintain your health and use the product, the Prizma, to maintain your health. For the people that are already experienced some sickness, control your sickness with our product. This will help you to monitor yourself on a more frequent way and less visits to hospitals or clinics. Especially 3 o'clock in the morning, you don't want to go and see a doctor. You want to do it from your bed. And with regard to the hospital, we will provide the hospitals with patches free of charge, and we'll only charge service, which will allow the hospital to skip the CapEx expenses and will allow them to monitor most of the beds in the hospital. As opposed to what is happening today, they're monitoring probably 5, 6, 8% of the beds because they don't have the CapEx to invest in bedside monitors. As a result, I'm telling you, and they will probably confirm it in below closed doors, that they have dead people dying every day in hospital, not because they were really supposed to die, because don't forget, you're arriving alive to the hospital. You don't want to leave the hospital dead.
That's it.
I'm not saying that's 100% of the cases, but many of them can be leaving the hospital alive if they would be monitored, and in real time they could be treated in the event something happened to them. So this is a very clear message to hospitals and physicians. And the other message which I said for preventive and keep your health with our Prizma, and for the ones that are already having an event, keep your life under control, because none of doctors are going to maintain your life at 3 o'clock in the morning and 2 o'clock in the morning or on the weekend or on vacation. And they're wonderful doctors, but they have their life as well.
Yeah.
So this is the message.
Well, there's no industry that isn't ripe for positive disruption. So thank you for your work in the medical field. I mean, I hope I won't, in one sense, need your products anytime soon, but I certainly hope that they help billions of people around the world. And thank you very much, and best of luck with your, getting TGA approval and global sales as quickly as possible.
Thank you very much, Alex, for having me today.
Thank you, Dr. Yacov. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you. Thank you very much.